and my father was John Johnson. And he left us when we were quite young, and so that made my mother be the head of the house. So she started, when he left us, I believe it was in the winter, as far as I can remember. Excuse me. And so we were farming. Out from Alabama. I was born and raised out from Alabama, about 5 miles. A place called Turning Time, out from Flat Bow. And she went on with the crop. She made a crop. I was small and pretty good size too. I couldn't tell the time on the clock. And that's when she started me to cooking at that point. She had a very big, tall stove. And I had a little old box about like that. I would stand on that. And I always was fond of my mother. After I grew up, I was jealous, but I didn't know it. And I just didn't want her to get out of my sight. And I used to go with her. I remember when she used to come over here, it was real cold. She was having some teeth extract. And we had a horse. And she'd ride the horse all the time, and we'd catch the train all the time. And I'd be so cold when they take me off the horse, I'd be in my butt. The next day, I'd get up and go with her again. And so, we were very poor, but we had a sweet mother, and she did the best she could for us. She always would sit down and talk, and she'd have family prayer, which we don't have anymore now. And then she'd sit down and tell us the way she had to make a living, you see. And then just like if another family was more fortunate than we was, she explained that to us, and she could tell us, but see, they have a father, you all don't have no father to help them. And so we got along pretty good. We had some good years, and we had some bad years. And when she started me to cooking, I was cooking for me and my brother, because I had an older sister, but she was gone and she got married, so that just left us for we home. And myself and my baby brother was the youngest one. And we had a bell, an old-time bell. So when I would get dinner done, I'd ring them, Sometimes it would be 11 o'clock or 10:30, I would know. So she used to come, so she told me, she said, well, sister said, don't put your dinner on until Mama comes. And she'd tell you. And she would come and tell her what time to put dinner on, and I'd cook dinner. And that's the way I started out cooking. I always did love to cook. In the
how many meals a day did you cook? Meal of the day?
I would cook 3 meals a day. And I did the housework. I was very small. It would take me 3 days to wash and 3 days to iron.
Is dinner like a lunchtime meal, a noon meal?
Well, I would, 12 o'clock, I'd have boiled dinner, like beans or greens or peas or whatever we had. And when you're in the country, you don't have things. We didn't have things like we had now, because we didn't even have, we didn't know what ice was. We knew what ice was, but we never did get it, the ice, less than just a certain day. And she had they didn't have deep freezers and whatnot like they got now, but she did have they used to make an ice box. It was made just like that, a chest. And so she went for some white peoples, and they give her that box. But still, we weren't able to keep ice in it. And so from time to time, she was a very good Christian. And she would make crops. And I remember one crop, one time, we stayed on a white man's place. And we call it sharecropping, which make half. If we made 10 bales, 5 was ours, and 5 go to him. And so, we stayed there 4 years. And we didn't clear anything. He didn't let us clear anything. And sometimes we made 10 bales. And I remember one time, cotton crop was good. Mother made 20 bales of cotton. And she didn't clear a dime out of it.
How could he cheat you?
I said he must have because groceries was cheap then, real cheap.
And then you had the store you had to buy it?
Well, they'd have a store, they call it draw date. 1st of March, that's when they would start to furnishing you for you to make, this year's crop. And they would allow us so much groceries a month, no money. Maybe if it took $25 or $30 worth of groceries, well, we would get $25 or $35 worth of groceries each month until we laid by the crop. Now, but Union laying by the crops, that's when the crop is done matured, and we waiting then until the cotton opened, and that would be about the last of July. They would cut that money, cut that grosses. If we were getting 30, we got 15 for that August, and then we didn't get no more until we started getting our crop. And then they had, well,
How did they do that?
that's the way the farmers do. It was in them days. And when we started getting the crop, well, we would get the seed money. You could always sell your seed and hold your bale of cotton until you get a high price. And we would get the seed money, and we'd gather that crop. And sometimes the rain would catch us, but most times when the rain catch us, the man we'd be farming with would be them got their part, or maybe ours would be in the field, and see, we still wouldn't get anything. So that particular time, we would always go around and see who all was going to stay on the place. So when he came by our house, he asked Mother, was she going to stay that year? She told him no. She had made plans with another farmer to try. So he asked us, he said, why would she want to move? She said, if you were farming with me, and you made 4 crops with me, and never cleared a dime, so what would you think? So would you think it would be me, or would think it would be you? So now, which one it is? Is it me that eating up everything I make, or is it you just won't let me clear anything? So he couldn't answer that question. So we didn't move that year. We moved to another man's place. And that year, when we gathered our crop, I guess she cleared over $300.
Oh, wow.
So
She's smart to move then.
How long did you stay at the first man's place?
Well, we stayed there 4 years.
4 years.
But see, after I could remember, after my daddy died, we stayed there 4 years. And then this other place, we stayed there 2 years. He was a very nice person. And he grew up with black. And he said black mostly raised him. And we stayed on his place 2 years. And really we didn't stay no longer than that. Because then we moved off of his place and moved back. He didn't have a farm of his own, but he would rent land and would, let people work with him. And so that year, this other fellow wanted his land. So that told us had to move somewhere else. And he was sorry, we were sorry, he couldn't get no well. I think we moved in and we stayed 2 years off of his place. And then when he got some more land, we moved back off his place. And we cleared pretty good money. Then we moved on another man's place. So he was running a gym, this man was. So he let all the land go because he was renting. And he couldn't have no more land for us to work. So that told us had to move somewhere else. So we moved about from time to time. And she raised chickens, she raised hogs. And mostly, that's the way we got along. And she'd sell a hog through the summer to get us, money. And then in the fall, maybe she would sell one before we started picking cotton. And for winter, sometimes she'd have much as 3 hogs to kill. And then we'd have something called a smokehouse, and she would smoke that meat with hickory wood. And she'd have it all hanging up. And we'd have meat all the winter and all the summer.
So you mean to tell me that your family, with your mother and your father, did the whole killing?
Well, my brothers.
Oh, they got good.
I had 2 brothers.
Boy, I had seen that done, yes. Hard work for anybody.
Yeah, and I had 2 brothers. And had 3 brothers, but the other brother wasn't big enough to do it. But the 2 bigger brothers, they did the hog killing.
Did the guy for whom you sharecropped, were there houses there for you?
Said what
was there a house there for you to go to?
What to live in? We didn't have to pay no rent. We just, they furnish your house to live in, as long as you sharecropping with them. And she'd make corn, and sometimes we'd have it pretty hard. And she always would tell us that the Lord would always make a way. She said someday it'll be better for us. And on and on. And then the time would get better and it would get hard. I remember one year the time got hard. We made 50 cents a day all day for chopping cotton. Chop cotton for 50 cents a day.
That's a real low price.
Real low.
For the whole family, we get 50 cents?
It's 50 cents a day.
Oh.
That was rough, wasn't it?
It was.
And then one year we picked cotton for 35 cents a hundred.
That's also low.
For 35 cents a hundred. And you would have to pick to make something. You really would. Now, I never had picked 300, but I used to pick from 280 to 290. And me and my baby brother averaged about the same. Well, at that time, my two older brothers had left home. They were married and they had their own families. So that left me and my baby brother to stay with mother. And we made crops. And sometimes when you gather the crops, some of the boys would go to Stuttgart to work in the rice farm, you know, to make a little money for the summer to live on. And she always, after all our ups and downs, she always would have a helping hand to help somebody else and do something for them. And she said that's the way you get your blessing, and that is true. And so, I remember we moved on another man's place, and she cooked for them. She cooked for them. I don't know exactly how much she got a week, but I don't think it was over $5. And then they had 2 cows, and she milked for them, and they paid her $2 extra for milking the cows, and give her half of the milk. And I would bring it home, and I would churn it home. But I just kept the house when she was working out, just like a little.
How old were you then?
Well, I guess at that time I might have been going into about the 13th year, as close as I can remember. And so I would churn and make butter, and we would do pretty good. And she was a Christian. She always brought us up in church and Sunday school. And
There was a church nearby you went
it was a church we used to walk to. And I had to go to school, walk to school, about 4 miles a day. And sometimes it would be so cold when I'd be so cold when I get to school, I'd never have freedom. There'd be a lot of us crying because our hands would be cold. And I never has went to a 9-month school where the kids school them in 9 months. We always got about 3 or 4 months, and that was all. I never did go to 9 months.
Because you were busy working in the field.
Well, they didn't have 9-month school in the country then, like they do now. They just didn't have it. And so we had a pretty rough time, and then sometime we had a pretty fair time. She kept us in clothes because she worked for white folks, and someone would give her a nice thing. She could sew real nice, and she'd take them things and make us clothes, and we looked nice when we come out. And we never did make her feel bad the way we had to make a living. We always tried to make her feel happy, and she always made us happy. And for eating, sometimes we had maybe just bread and syrup to eat. We would eat that. And I remember one year the time got so hard that people raised a lot of greens. She did too. And most of we got. We eat greens for breakfast and greens for supper, and greens for dinner a lot of times. We just didn't have nothing else to eat.
What had any meat to put in a meeting?
At that time, I don't think she had a hoe. We had a little salt meat, and when she would cook biscuits, the grease, the salt that she would have would be so scarce, she wouldn't put it on in the biscuits, but she would melt it, and she'd dab it all over the biscuits. And that's the way she worked. It worked pretty good. And she had something that she'd make, we call kush. That's something that's made out of meal.
Cornmeal.
And she'd make it, and she'd make that kush. Sometimes we have it for breakfast. And when she fried her meat, we didn't have bacon. She'd have salt meat. If she hadn't killed the hog, we'd have salt meat, and the drippings from that salt meat, she'd take it and she'd boil the water, and scald that meal some kind of way, and have onions and black pepper and salt, and she would kind of fry it, stir it up in the skillet, and boy, that was so good.
It sounds good. I've heard of that before now that I hadn't heard it called that name.
But it was so good. And people then wasn't sick like they are now. I never hear about folks having sugar. Never had not a heart attack, not very much. And most what people have, it was a disease come out called a pellagra. And the pellagra was it would break out inside, and the doctor would have to give you medicine to run it out on the outside. And a lot of times, I see people's hands would be just soaked, both of them all over, and their mouth would get soaked. And we would have to be on a certain diet, like milk and eggs and like that. Well, a lot of times, people didn't have their own cows. And that particular year, it was a lady, we had a neighbor stayed close to us, and she had to play. She had 2 kids and a husband. They was worse off than we was. And I chewed at home, and every day when I chewed, Mama would have me to take her a bucket of milk. I sent her some eggs, a chicken or something. And she hadn't been doing well. And so after that, this lady got well. And she did fine. And they was like us. They was on some people's place that they didn't clear no money. And that particular year, they cleared nice money. And they were very happy. And another time, I remember Mama hooked another lady out. I don't know what was wrong with this little girl, but she was named the same thing my mother was named. My mother was named Carrie, and this little girl was named Carrie. And she was 6 years old, but I think it was lack of food. She had never walked.
She was how old?
She was 6 years old.
She never walked.
She had never walked in her life. And Mama went down there. My mother would always go see sick, and give her a helping hand if she could. And when Mama went down and see that little girl, she told her mother, she said, this child, said, she ought to could walk. She said, well, I don't know what we could do to make her walk. Mama said, well, I'm going to divide my milk and butter with her. And said, I want y'all to give it to her. Mama give her sweet milk and she'd give her buttermilk. And after Mama started giving this, they started feeding this child milk. In 2 weeks, that girl was walking.
Sure. Maybe her brothers were weak because she didn't have enough milk before.
And she was walking in 2 weeks. And that fall, she went to school. She sure did. She had never walked before in her life.
I bet she sure remembers your mother.
She did. And so, from time to time, that's the way we had to live. But most time, Mother would always raise a hog. And she put up stuff and she could cook. I don't care what it was. If it wasn't nothing but bread, I just thought it was so good because she was a good cook. And I don't know where she learned her cooking from. Because I never seen it with a cookbook. But I learned mine from her. And because my mother couldn't read or either write. But she sure did have good knowledge, and Mother did. Because her mother died when she was quite young. And I never was able to, I never did see none of my grandpeoples because they all were dead years before I was born. Because all my sisters and brothers were born in Louisiana. And I was born here in Arkansas, me and my baby brother. So we were the only 2 born in Arkansas. And so I would say she made a good living for us after all. And we was happy and we made her happy. And she was a good Christian. And she always taught us to go to Sunday school and church. And we did. In 1923, I was baptized and joined the church. And I joined a church in Mount Moriah under a pastor named Reverend Parker. And I stayed there until we moved after my mother passed. Then I lived with my brothers. And I moved, come over here and live with my sister. And I've been belongs to this church. I belongs to the Highland Baptist Church. I joined more than 35 years ago. I attend Sunday school, I attend church, I sing in the choir. I'm the secretary of my singing class. I belongs to the Ada Chapel 224 Eastern Star, and I'm the conductor of my chapel. I belongs to the Happy Hour Singing Club, and I belongs to the American Legion. And so after I come over here, it was pretty tough over here. I have worked right here in Pine Bluff for $1.50 a week, 5 days a week.
When did you come here?
It was in the 30s. It was in the 30s.
It's hard times for everybody.
It was hard time for everybody. I worked for $1.50 a week. And after I got sick, so this lady hired somebody else. And the next job I got was $2.50 a week. She was. And the next job I got, I made $4.50 every 2 weeks. But anyway, when I got paid off, I would make $9. And I thought that was wonderful.
Were you keeping house and cooking too?
I was cooking, he was cooking and washing and doing everything.
Taking care of children too?
Sometimes with the children, take care. And so I married Jessie Tidwell, which is a pretty nice guy. And we had pretty rough times because he was working on a low job. He never had been able to bring $50 home in flat the whole time we were been married. But we took it and made a go out of it. And had a boy in high school. We finished him up in high school. And he would have went to college, but the Army got him. And so he got shell shocked. And he didn't live too long. He passed about 6 years ago. And so, and the next job I got making $12 a week. And boy, I really thought that was some money. And which it was to what I had been, doing. And so after all, we made it pretty good. I didn't get very high in school because after my mother got sick, I had to stop and take care of her. And I was loaded to the 7th grade, but I never did finish it up. So I had to stop and go to work. So I never did go back to school anymore. So because she passed, and I stayed with my brothers until I came over here. And so I guess that's not it.
Oh, wow. Well, wonderful. Life you had and me, yeah. I know what you mean to the Stern family.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been working for them for about, I believe this is the 19th year since I retired, but still I goes.
You're one of the first people Arthur calls when he gets back in town, you know that.
Oh, yeah, he called me, and I was surprised he didn't call me this time when he left. He must have forgotten.
I think he was really in a hurry. You know, they gave me a big going-away party Saturday.
Yeah.
And he was just worn out from that, I think.
And when he was in Boston, he would call me. Him and Ellen both are very sweet. Oh, Dr. and Miss Stern is too. But he would call me on my birthday.
Yeah.
When he's in Ellen, she would call. And he would always call when he's going away. And they were such a nice people. And he is such a nice boy, I would say, and Ellen too. Until right now, known as he is, when he get ready to go, he tell me, Jessie, I'm going so-and-so. Well, that's the way Miss Stern taught her. Because when I first started working, Arthur was 13. And she would always have them to tell me where they were going. And if they didn't, sometimes she'd come and she said, where's Arthur? I said, I don't know. He didn't tell you where he was going? I said, I'm going to see him when I come back. She'll tell you.
You betcha. She's a very proper lady, too. Yes. She said that you could tell a lot about home remedies. You were talking about the pellagra and about how people were mostly healthy otherwise.
Yeah, they was healthy. They were healthy. And we didn't have doctors like we had now when we lived on the farms where...
I just wondered, how close was the nearest doctor?
Well, sometimes, you see, I think we was about 5 miles from the closest doctor. Either way, Water City or Altamont. And they always would have, when we get sick, if the tenants on the place would need a doctor, we would have to go to the boss man, and he would write us an order for us to get a doctor. And that's the way we had to get a doctor.
What did you do for things, ordinary things like colds or whooping cough or stuff like that?
They always would make a remedy. Now, I don't know all the remedies she used to make. I really don't know what she used for whooping cough. But we never did go to no doctor and take no shots for no whooping cough, for no measles, and for no chicken pox, and nothing. Sure didn't. And I don't know whether it is the measles or what, that she would give us sage tea. And then when the people's babies was little, they didn't have babysitters. And it's like if my mother wanted to go to church and she wanted to leave her baby, she'd make a sugar tea for her.
Oh, what's that?
And it would be nice, clean, soft cloth like, what you call this?
Muslin?
No.
Cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth. And she'd put sugar in it. Sometimes she'd make 3. And that would last him, and he would suck it.
I see.
And that would keep him pacified. See, because they nurse their babies on their breath. Not no bottle baby. And that would keep him pacified till she got it.
Did they ever put a little whiskey on it?
No, I don't think she put whiskey on it.
Was there any whiskey ever, any liquor around?
Oh, yeah, it was liquor. It was whiskey around. Sure was. But my mother never did use whiskey unless she used it for medicine.
I guess that's what I was getting to. Did they maybe use it for medicine?
And now you take it's rock candy. You know what rock candy is?
Yeah.
Well, now she used to make up something in rock candy and whiskey, put on us for colds. And then it was Earth Road. I don't know whether I could identify it now. Called Whole House.
The Treadmill, yeah.
Whole House.
Yeah, yeah.
But she would get that whole house, and she'd make us a whole house circa out there 5 coals. It would be bitter, but it sure was good. But we never had to go to no doctor for no cold. We didn't. Then she'd give us castor oil, and that whole house. She sure would.
Did you take that in the spring? Did you go through the spring?
We would take that in the winter, when we have cold.
Oh.
Now for the spring, she always said she's gonna clean us out. She would give us a lot of castor oil, stuff like that, and use tallow. It's like if we had a real bad cold showing up, we take that whole hound and she get that tallow hot, and she freeze out her chest.
Yeah.
And then she get a flanning rag and put that flanning rag on her chest. And for pneumonia, folks use cowchip tea.
Cowchip?
That's right.
Sounds like powerful stuff.
How'd they do that?
It would be dry.
They drink it or put it
Now they
on?
put it in a bag and make a put hot water on it. My brother had a pneumonia because he didn't know it. She slipped and gave it to him. He was so sick. His neighbor told her about it because he was a great.
Did it really work?
It worked. It really worked.
It would be working if it cured pneumonia.
It really worked.
Well, all it is just grass.
Yeah. But just out of it. It really worked.
Well, we used to, my grandma used to make a thing of a syrup of uncooked onions and
She used to do
sulfur
that
and
too.
sugar. Oh, yeah?
She would do that too. She sure did. It really worked, and she'd use mullein tea. You know what mullein is?
Yeah.
She'd use mullein tea with us for the malaria fever. It was.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of mosquitoes over there in that area.
It was. But we used to have mosquito bars over our beds. And for the malaria, she'd go out and get this dog film. It's a weed with a yellow top on it. It was bitter as anything I ever tasted. And she'd make us drink it, and she would steep us in it.
What, in the bathroom?
No, we didn't have a bath as I know. She'd get a tub of water and let us lean over and
Like a
put something over our head
vaporizer, yeah.
and steep us in it. And that would break our fever. So that's the way we got along. Sure did.
Babies must have been born with midwives there.
It was. They didn't have no doctors there. It was just now and then he would hear that the midwife would have to get a doctor. That would be when a woman would have a baby, and the doctor would have to take it. They were all born by midwives. Sure was.
Were you ever there when it happened?
No, I never have been. Because when Mama's babies was born, I was little. I remember when one was born. But I don't know. All I just know when we know anything. She told us the midwife had brought her a baby.
In the bag? The midwife carried it back. I've heard that before, yeah.
She told us that we'd ask her why. I said, well, Mama, how you get it? She said, she brought him here in a bag. So, but I guess that's about all.
Did your mom ever tell you where babies really came from?
She did.
When you got married?
She told me before. See, I wasn't married when my mother died. I was grown, but I was still real young.
Yeah.
And she always told me. I was a big girl though, because I was way up in age when I come to be a young lady. I didn't know what it was. And the lady she worked for, she said, well, Carrie, you ought to done told her. But she hadn't. And she said, explain to me and everything. And I just believed everything my mama said. If Mama said the house would turn over, I would believe it.
Did she tell it to you the right way it really is?
She
That's
told
good.
me. She told me how everything was and what would happen and everything.
Did she say it would be all right?
Yes, sir. She sure told me. And how to take care of myself when I was going out, amongst the boys and everything.
How did she say to do?
Oh, she told me not to do nothing.
Oh.
That's all she told me. Just didn't have nothing to do with them. Just lay and talk.
Yeah.
Because she told me what would happen. But see, things wasn't like it is now. Because girls didn't know how to take care of themselves then. And the mothers didn't either. That's all they know to tell them just keep the dress down. That's what they would say. Keep the dress down. And so they got along pretty good.
Did folks who were married and didn't want to have any more children, did they try to have any kind of birth control?
No. They didn't know nothing about that. Sure didn't. They didn't know a thing on earth about that. Sure didn't.
I think there's a lot of folks now don't know.
That's right.
Anyway.
And for Christmas, she always would have us something for Christmas. We never was never a Christmas past, but we didn't have a plenty to eat. Now, we didn't have a lot of toys because she wasn't able to buy them. But she buys firecrackers, and we get some of what the other children get. We might not get as much.
In Snow Lake or around here?
I moved here the first day of January 1943, but I grew up down here in the Delta,
You did. Near what town?
out in Roundy Lane.
Has your family been involved in plantations?
No, they just was farm laborers and other the sharecroppers. My dad come here to sharecropper.
Where did he come from?
Well, around Marble. Well, when he came to Mississippi as a kid, but he grew up around Marble.
What made you decide to come to Snow Lake?
Well, we came here as I told you, my dad came here as a sharecropper, and I just stayed.
When did you start being a postmistress? Was that immediately when you got here?
No, I came in 43 and I started as postmaster at the 1st of December 1947.
How did you get the job?
Yeah, the old postmaster retired and I was working as an assistant at that time and I got the job.
Well, you must have bought everybody in town.
I did, but most of them's left.
Let's see. So you take care of the mail here. And is the post office kind of a center for the community in any way?
Well, it was now, I guess, because all the stores you see have closed here. And so I guess it's really the only thing. Now it's here.
Well, you were a sharecropper as a child? Or a sharecropper right around?
That and here's no lake here, London Plantation.
Was Mrs. Britt ever your teacher?
No, her sister teaches me.
Her sister?
Mrs. Ruby Event.
So you stuck close to her most of your life. Have you seen the area, have you seen some major changes happening in the area?
Well, I seen it going down an awful lot. When I came here to see it was 2 stores, and 2 teams, and a number of sharecropping families, lots of people. Now the stores is gone, and Jim's is gone, and most of the people's gone.
Where do you suppose that is?
Well, I guess that the government, cutting the cotton acreages and things like that, and they didn't have as much need for farm labor. They had got tractors and things like that to work it with. Back in the 40s, they had mules. And so that made a difference. They didn't need as much labor anymore.
So, there just aren't so many people working.
They got cotton planters, they got cotton choppers, and they got all this stuff to kill the grass. They didn't need the cotton choppers. They didn't need the cotton pickers. People pick the cotton in by hand. And the pickers too, really. And they had to chop it. They brought in Mr. Britt. This man right here, on this place, he brought in 50 and 60 Mexican nationals to pick cotton in the fall.
When was this?
Back in the 60s and 50s, 50s and early 60s.
But now it's all done by machine.
Now it's all done by machine. The hands going. That's one reason why they all gone.
So is there any kind of community spirit, all that, the community gatherings? And
The only thing we have is church.
one church?
One church for, the colored and white haven't started going to church together yet, so we have no churches anymore, but just,
One for the world.
you
Do you have any church events besides just the Sunday service? Do you have any gatherings?
no, it's not that picture. All of that used to be did, not anymore.
I guess most of the people to go shopping go into the lane.
I'm supposed to go down and see if myself.
Like loved ones.
Later.
How do you feel being the postmistress and knowing everybody in town, kind of being do you feel like you're in the center of things at all since you
Well, I don't know.
You see everybody's mail coming in?
Yes, but I don't pay no attention to it. And I always try to not meddle in anything. Well, the last one to know anything, too. Nothing happened when the last to find out about it. Don't try to. But I feel like I run into my papers.
That's good.
Yeah, I like all of them. And I think I run into the same way about me.
Are you training anyone else to work with you?
I have a replacement that when I like it to work for me. I always have to keep one of those in case someone just gets sick.
If you hadn't started working for the post office, what do you think you might be doing now?
I wouldn't have no way. I wouldn't been here.
You wouldn't be so what?
No, I wouldn't been here because there wouldn't be nothing else to really to do around here. I had been somewhere else to have found a job if I had went to work. And I'm just married and one housewife.
Is your husband here?
He's, yeah.
Does he still works in the...
No, he works with government too.
Oh, he does.
Had a good pumpkin plant over out on the right with a lady. Now, if I'm married, and he works out there, he's supervisor. Now, he's on good.
Let's see. Do you have sisters and brothers in your... What kind of work have they done?
My brother works with construction. And I have one sister, she's just been a housewife, but she's trying to be a nurse now. And another one is working in music. They have a band in Los Angeles, California.
Really? Your sister?
She plays drums.
Really? That's interesting. What kind of music do they play?
They play country and rock and roll and just whatever.
Is it all from their band?
No, her husband and brother-in-law and sister-in-law was a family band though. She has teenage children plays too. They play different clubs and whatnot.
Do you ever try that medicine?
I haven't been out there.
Been to California?
No, I've been to California.
Would you like to go?
Yes, I thought I might go. I thought I might be good to go last year, but there was a startup salon and I hope I'm having fun with it.
Have you ever done much traveling outside of Arkansas?
I've been to Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and Chicago. All over Arkansas. That's what we did last year. We toured the north of Arkansas.
Do you have a camper?
We did. We don't have camping anymore. We can't try to get no.
Think about, I just wonder what it's like to work in a post office.
Yeah, I think it's a nice job.
It would get me dreaming about traveling. Because you're always going to different places. And I see all these different thoughts.
Well, that comes from a big office and you don't have all that to do.
Well, I see there's a lot of markings.
That's where they don't even do that anymore now. They have machines to do this kind of thing. That's why you have to stand near your nose and start out the nose, sticking in my glasses. But it came from a bigger office. This one had to go that much.
I worked in the post office during Christmas once.
Now those big offices like meetings and these little ones. Because I used to have a lot more to do than I have now.
What do you do when you got busy?
Well, I got things to do.
You stay busy, huh?
I like to crochet and if I get not busy here, I crochet or I read. I like to read. That's having my problem. I'll read the newspapers and magazines and everything and the mail I get in the morning. I don't look at them and just going through all of that.
How many boxes do you have?
Already I only have about 52, but I think I have about, I think I have about 100. 50 close to anyway.
101 people in town or something like that?
Well, we have a star at, and part of it goes out that way, you see. This is not just exactly a town, it's just a countryside, rural area. You can say you got 101 people at a time. Now, where the town part is, there wouldn't be that many. But in the community,
You mean Laconia Circle? Is that you consider the community?
well, one of those are outside the circle too.
I've always wondered what that meant, Star Road, because I've heard it before and I never figured out.
That's one without a number. You don't go.
If it's a community with just one rural route, then they usually call it the Star Road.
A rural route, the postmaster, the rural carrier is just like a postmaster. He writes money orders and he registers letters and insures packages and things like that. My carrier has to pick those up and bring them back to me and I do that. But the rural carrier can do it for you. He can register you a letter or insure your package or write you a money order or whatnot. But a star route carrier can't do that.
What do you observe about relationship between the black people and the white people here?
Well, it's good. That's what I said. Well, I think we're all friends down here.
Do you think it's different from most places in Arkansas or most plantation places?
No, I'd say it big because I don't know about most plantation places, but I know it's a lot different than it is in the city because they don't know if you're fighting with you. You don't know if you're fighting with them. And, I'll just be friends. Of course, we don't visit each other in homes, nothing like that, but still, I think we're all friends.
Where do people buy everything? They have to go out of town to buy everything. There's no little grocery store.
Well, for about 5 miles up the road to the grocery store, but you can't get too much there. You have to go as far as Cromwell anyway, folks, to get groceries.
Well, if only good grocery store, then they can make enough money to keep it going.
They said they were making good money when they were working here. I don't know. Ms. Brooks going about it. And steady. Well, steady closed a couple of years ago. And they said they made a good living. Nothing get rich out of it, but they made a good living.
It's not like it's really a dead end of the highway.
It's a long way.
So they're planning in the future run more highway to here?
Not as I know.
Do you wish that they were?
No, I always did. I always wished the road would go through. 10, 15 years ago, they got together and cut them. Right away through, thinking maybe they might get a road, made a, what they call a dry weather road. I thought maybe they might get the ferry that come from the bridge things to ferry them across. And transport through. My husband worked down there cutting the road. Mr. Wigginson's hands down there cutting the road. And his brother was on the farm. They did the same thing. They sold through them and did anything. Well, McGee was having some of them didn't want it to. I think Charlie thought McGee might take the trade away from them if they was doing and McGee, I don't know what they thought.
But it really changes the community to a lot.
I think it really helped. They got it so back in the early 50s or the early 60s.
It's sitting quiet now. It's not nice. Do you ever feel lonely being out?
Don't bother me. I guess I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me.
It's real nice and quiet. It's very pretty right here too.
Summer gets you in and you get crops fried and everything.
Zachary. And he moved out to box 217 Marvel. How do you pronounce Marvel? Marvel. Marvel. Everybody told us that it was supposed to be pronounced Marvel. And she's just given us an astonishing amount of things that you do. I was wondering if you had any time left. Where did you go to school?
I went to school at Woodley Academy, and it is no longer in operation.
Was that a private black school? Private black school. And see, that's sort of interesting. I don't think people really know too much about it. Well, or at least people who don't go to Arkansas. Was it a boarding school?
Yes, it was. Supported by Baptist churches. And it's very unfortunate that it had to close down.
I think so too. But it closed because it was a segregated school. Is that what it was?
This was before segregation and integration was a big question, but it closed because of lack of funds. This was back in 48 when I finished. And I think they closed probably in 49 or 50.
How many students would have gone there?
I guess approximately 250.
Really, what have they done with the...
Well, the building is no longer there, and the man that was president when I was there is deceased now. However, his wife lives in Little Rock, and you probably would get a history of this academy from her.
That sounds like an interesting... Do you have any pictures of it?
No.
Was it just girls? Was it or
No,
college?
it's girls and boys.
Girls and boys. Just
Religiously inclined, and we would talk about it along with our studies.
and you just went to church all the time. I know how to run somewhat like that in Silent Springs.
Church was the Bible study was a great part of the curriculum.
Sure. Now, how you have children, but you have a boy and a girl.
No, just one son.
Oh, two grandchildren.
Right.
Boy and a girl. I see. And then you went to the Homer G. Phillips School of Nursing in St. Louis, Missouri. Are you an RN?
No, I didn't complete it.
Oh, did you? And then you married and
That's right.
began to raise your family.
That's good.
And then have you lived here on this farm since your marriage? Or did you and your husband?
No, we lived here ever since I married.
And you are a widow. And how long then have you managed the farm by yourself? And I have a note here that you're owner and manager of a diversified farm.
That's good. My husband stayed ill for 11 years. And I became manager 2 years after he became ill. And we started renting the farm out after he took ill.
I think.
And so this is just about what we're doing now. However, my son farms about 300 acres of the farm. How big is the farm? About 11 acres.
An enormous farm. Well, could your son still farms, and then you rent the rest of the farm out.
Rent and manage.
And you manage then the renters, and do you manage the soil, the land, the rotation, all of the crops, or do they plant pretty much what they want to?
It's up to them. Their decision.
I see. Then, is that done on a sharecropping basis?
No, it's
or
cash rental.
Cash rental.
That's right.
I see. Do you think that sharecropping is there more sharecropping now or less?
No, it's less. Sharecropping is almost all.
I see.
Mostly day labor. Since farming has become more diversified and mechanical, you see that rules out hard labor and sharecroppers.
What do people grow on this farm?
Predominantly beans and soybeans and cotton. Now that's on my farm. In this area you can grow rice and corn, oats, and wheat. We grow some oats, wheat, and milo maize, but we don't have any rice farmers not right in this area.
Is the land not prepared for rice? Or
It can be prepared for rice, but we don't have anyone that's interested yet. I'm sure that we will be going in that direction.
I see. As we put this book together, or probably over-optimistic to call it a book, but as we put the publication together, actually we were interested in women who had to take the leading role in the family, or who had to just get out and make a living in a man's world, and who found it difficult to deal with other men, or deal with with men or with other owners, or have you felt at any real disadvantage because you're a woman?
Yes, to some extent.
Could you explain how? But I mean, this is the sort of thing we're really very interested in.
When I first started operating, no one had heard of womanhood. So I say I've been liberated all the time. I'm not too much interested in women liberation because I felt liberated all the time, because this came to me by no choice of my own. It was just something that fell on my shoulders. And I had to take the responsibility of a farm, and when I took it, we had 27 tenants.
Okay.
And my son was 10 years old.
Little tenants living on the farm?
Yes. And my husband is a lot older than I. And right there, I had a disadvantage because no one believed in me because I was so young. And most of the tenants were old enough to be my parents and some my grandparents. And you see, this is an old established farm.
Sure.
And so you had families here that had reared families, and they would rear another family. So it was just a unique situation, and I came in as an outsider.
Yes, you married into the
I
family.
married into the community, although my parents lived in this area. When I went to school in Berkeley, and I left Berkeley and I went to St. Louis, and so when I came back, I was just almost a strange person, although this was my native home. So finding good, this is a young woman marrying an elderly man, and then we were together 10 years before he took sick. We had a very unique situation. But then when he takes sick, then no one wanted to look up to me, and I didn't have a phone.
Right. How did you manage to do
My
it?
experience in nursing came real handy because my husband suffered a stroke that was partially paralyzed. So then I had to become a manager, a nurse, a mother trying to rear a 10-year-old son, and a whole lot of things that I sure would want to do over again. I found it very hard to get the tractor drivers to respect me because they didn't think that I knew what I was talking about. But I've always kept up with local projects and meetings and etc. So I was very close to agricultural extension. At that time it was home demonstration. So we had a very good home demonstration agent here. She's deceased now by the name of Mrs. Gertrude Banks LeMay. And she was just a guiding light to me. She would tell me about talking with the county agent and getting soil samples for the place and getting the proper fertilizer and trying to become, a good manager and prove myself as a woman what I could do. And she had great faith in me. So that's when I started to talking with the tractor drivers about my plan and everything. They didn't want to do nothing. No, we can't do that. Well, I couldn't talk with my husband about it because he was set in his ways. But finally, through odds and ends and good communication, that is something that you must have. I finally got them to see my way, and in I guess about 6 months we got all straightened out, and I told them what I wanted, and I would listen to them. So we started out doing real good. And prior to this, my husband was a man that definitely believed in the old style farming and the plantation disposition. And he didn't care too much about soil samples and things like this. And I had talked him into this before, he took sick. So we were going in this direction before he took sick. And I think that probably is mentioned there that in '59 we became the Farm Family of the Year.
Yes, as in Arkansas.
That's right, and we were given first place right there at UAPB.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's wonderful. Do you have an award?
Oh, yes, we have awards, and well, all of the pictures, and unfortunately I've been in court for about 3 years now, and all of the pictures are tied up in the Supreme Court, but we did win first place here in Arkansas. The runoff was held at Pine Bluff. We won first place there as being the largest landowners in Arkansas. I guess you better cut your tape off because I hear some company coming in.
Okay.
From a grandson, my husband had one daughter who preceded him to death. There was a will made, he contested the will.
I see. I see.
He lost in lower court and appealed it and went to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court also decided in my favor.
I see. Well, we don't run to get too personal, but it was such an interesting thing. Then we were talking about the difficulty in getting people to accept you as a young woman owner of a farm and operator of a farm. Can you think of any specific instance that would be interesting or something that you had to do in particular?
And I can't leave out the part of being black either because that's a factor. But, at the cotton shed, for instance, they had never had, black women, to ask for their cotton because back in the 50s, most housewives, were just housewives. So, you stayed at home and tended to the kids and you went to the field or you stayed at home and just took house. So when I started getting out and asking for cotton samples and checking up on bales of cotton and going to the bank, confronting the bankers and checking on mistakes and such things, who are you? What do you want? And I'm very proud that my parents taught me patience.
You needed that, I'm sure.
So, and perseverance. So if I hadn't had that, and of course I definitely have to say that a lot of the requirements came through the school that I attended to. And through that, I gained a lot of friends and the respect of the town's people.
Well, everybody certainly seems to know you. We got many directions as to how to get here. But no particular incident where you just simply ran bang into something that was opposing you as a woman.
Well, a lot of times I did, but I really couldn't say whether it was 50% woman or 50% black. And right here, I wouldn't like to bring in any racial slurs because things are going well now, and
sure.
I can understand people's feelings back in the 50s.
Well, we're more interested in people's reaction as women because
Right.
did you ever feel that people were ready to take advantage of you because they thought that you were a woman and might not know?
I felt that way then, and I feel that way more so now since I've become a widow.
I also am alone, and I have. I told him at the Ford Motor Company, I said, Judge, all I want to know is that you didn't say, oh, here she comes again, drag out that Ford pickup with the bad transmission. Sometimes you feel it. I wonder if we're oversensitive or if it really exists. I think it really exists.
Well, I definitely know that it exists because the road that I traveled since becoming a widow has been a dark, lonely road, and it has been a road, uphill climb all the way. And a lot of it, I feel, is because I'm a woman, and sometimes people feel that you're unprotected, and they feel that you don't know, and so you're out there lamed up.
Yeah. Did you ever come across any really overt attempts to cheat you?
Yes.
You just had to stand and
I just had to stand up.
And say, no, I will not be cheated.
That's right. For instance, as I say, being tied up in court, it's not a secret, you know. It's get around. It gets around rather. And a man came to me and told me one day, says, did you know that they were hauling dirt off your land? I said, no. And he said, well, you need to check into it. So I talked with my son about it. So we jumped in the pickup. First thing we did, we believe in the camera too. First thing we did was grab that camera. But most people get a gun now.
Well, that's,
A camera is proof, where a word camera is always proof.
and a gun is never a solution.
Yeah, destructive. So nobody would tell the story. A lot of times people have a gun.
Right.
Right. So I would love to live and enjoy, you know, what I have, no matter what the court says, you know. So we went over, and I've always believed in a kind tongue. This man is just old and dirty. It's a huge crane. So I waved him down. I had made pictures already. I asked him, what is he on? And he says, no. He says, our boss is going to dinner. And I said, well, sir, I said, you were violated. Oh, he had a hot curse. I said, well, no, I'm not going to curse you. He said, I have too much dignity, you know, and comes and says, are you saying I'm crazy? I said, yes, you are. Yeah, I ain't crazy. Oh, he used off the thing. I said, well, I'm not going to curse you. I said, if you just tell me where I can find the manager, I said, we'll talk it over, but I'm going to ask you, you know, not to haul the dirt away. I'll haul it away if I please. I said, well, I'm going to town and I'm going to find the manager. So he gave me a runaround. But I soon found him and I talked with him. Well, he told me that what he would call one of the heirs to my husband's property had given him permission. So I asked him, did he know that the widow was the first heir to be considered? Well, they told me you didn't own it. I said, well, you shouldn't have taken it. They say, you know. Said, sir, you should have come to me. So I'm going to ask you to unload your dirt and get your equipment off of my property. And there will not be any problem. I'm not going to say anything about what you've already done. Because, you know, it looks better, you know, since you hauled it, but you still should have asked me. Oh, no. I said, well, you know, we can't haul the sheriff. No, don't do that. I can't stand that SOB. Don't. Well, can we make a deal? I said, no, we can't make a deal. Well, what was he doing with the dirt? Well, they were building a building at the time, and he was selling the dirt.
Oh, my goodness.
Just coming, hauling off your farm and selling it in town. That's nice.
$75 a load. Free dirt.
My goodness. Thanks a lot to put in. It's good in holes.
Yes, that's correct. And then, you know, he tried to get nasty. He told me, well, it ain't none of your ground. I said, well, it sure is blank in yours. And I'm just going to ask you, you know, by noon, just move your equipment. And he did move it. He did move it, and the next day he called and apologized. He told me he had time to think it over. But when there was another instance, my husband was in business with a man, and I saw where this man was taking advantage of my husband after he was ill. He tried to, you know, maintain farming, and, you know, he never could walk alone anymore, but he could get around real well, and we would carry him out to the field and try to do whatever he desired to do. And we found out that managing, you know, from the truck and from a chair out in the field and all those things, people were taking advantage of him. So he was in partnership with several guys, and I urged him to look into it. And when he started looking into it, he started thinking, you know, and started showing him some figures where people were just ripping him off. So he decided he would get out of this partnership. And I went to the people and told them that the partnership was dissolved. I went to a lawyer, got it, you know, taken off the record as being partners, and did also with the CPA. So there was one man that they owed. Well, I paid off all the bills, his half. And his partner did not pay his half. So there was one man that did not want to accept my husband's half of the bill. He demanded rather all of it. So I explained to him that it was a partnership business. And my husband was dissolving the partnership. So he told me that he would not have let them enter an agreement if my husband hadn't been a man in good standing, see, I had nothing to do with his thoughts about it. But he had me to understand that he was doing this totally because of my husband's reputation. And I tried to explain to him that I was trying to keep my husband's reputation by paying off an honest debt that he owed, but I wasn't going to pay this other man's half. So he told me, well, are you telling me that I'm lying and so you lie? I said, sir, whatever you want to call yourself, you can. And he was putting a light fixture up, and he fell off the ladder. You upset me. She did. You. I said, well, sir, I haven't done anything to upset you. I said, I came to your business. I was respectable. I just told you what I wanted to do. I'll get me a lawyer. I said, well, I already have one. So, you know, if you want to go to court, I said, sir, I'm not afraid to go to court. So I've been to court several times. I've been on the witness stand, I don't know how many times. I said, it just doesn't excite me. I said, lawyers don't excite me. Guns don't excite me. I said, I've had all of these. I said, so you'll have to do something else besides falling off the ladder. Well, H then, I guess I'll just get up. I said, that would be the proper thing to do. So he got up and swept his light bulb up.
How did you become so sophisticated about knowing all about the court proceedings and how to manage a farm and everything? Just
Experience.
just day by day, just keep
When
on
you're
talking?
slammed against a hard wall, you can't do nothing but fight. It's like a tiger. You have to. Or either you back out and you're a loser.
Well, then it had
When you say true grit, you've got to have it. If you want to survive in this world as a woman, you've got to have it. Because you're going to have women that's against you.
a lot of women against
You
you.
know, I had women to come to my husband. Is it cool? I turned the heat down some.
No, I'm fine.
I had women to come to my husband, you know, and tell me, said, you don't know what you're doing. You giving her the rope, she's going to break her neck. She's going to run away with what you have.
Oh,
And she's going to do this. And she's, you know, women that was older than I. And then women that was my age, you know. She doesn't know how to manage. She doesn't know how to do this, do that. And I wound up in every office in this county, hunting up abstracts, deeds, going to the Farmers Home Administration and learning about loans, ASCS, learning about measurements. And I mean, as I tell them, I don't have a degree, per se, from a college, but I would equalize myself when it comes to farm management and trying to stand up and be a woman. I have a PhD.
Yeah, well, certainly you do.
Because, you know, I've been to Supreme Court twice.
The Supreme Court of Arkansas.
Yes, I should have.
Well, my gracious. That I think is maybe the purpose, the reason the Pine Bluff Women's Center is in existence. Well, now, Chanah, let me ask you first if you'd tell me your whole name. Just tell me your whole name.
Chanah Reid Foti.
Do it again, because I made a noise there.
Chanah Reid Foti.
Chanah Reid Foti. How old are you?
7.
7. What grade?
First.
You're in the first grade. Can you read, Chanah?
A little bit.
Okay. Read pretty good? What kind of books do you read?
Reading books that well, we have reading books. And by the name of the book you go up, like our book is Signpost, old Signpost, and we're almost there, so we're almost in Enchanted Gates.
Oh, I see. I don't even know the names of those books. We were talking about how old you were. I was wondering if you could be just any age, forever and ever, what age would you be?
I guess I'd be until much I am that. I don't want to get any older.
You want to get any older?
Oh.
Maybe it'd be nice to be 7 all your life. But you might, when you get to be 8 or 9, want to stay there, I suppose. You think maybe any changes
Age is good, no matter where you are. Yeah, it is. It really is. Why do you feel getting older?
Because I just don't want to get any older.
You think we have to do work?
Because it's fun to be little. Because you can go and do things and do more things. When you're big, you get stiff and you can't do as many things as you can if you're little.
That's true. Well, how old do you think is old?
Well, sometimes old can be young and sometimes old can be old.
I see that.
Sometimes you can be in the 20s and sometimes you can be in the 50s.
Yeah.
So it's young and it's old.
Really think we can have anybody in the 50s who slow down? Even if they are still?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm glad to hear that. Tell me, I've often wanted to ask some little girl this. Do you think it's easy to be a woman?
Well, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Probably what I think. And sometimes you can get stuck in something. And when you're at it, you feel like it's fun to be a woman. But sometimes it isn't.
Let's see. Can you tell me some of the times it would be fun to be a woman?
For sure. When you don't have a problem to do, or when you're talking to your friends and talking about what you've been doing and all that, something like that.
I see. When would it be hard to be a woman?
Well, sometimes when you probably do have a problem. It's kind of hard.
Yes, it is indeed. What kind of problems do you think women have?
Well, probably problems like some of them have problems like a place where they want to really work at. Like at first, they always couldn't find a place where she really wanted to work at.
It's true. I never thought about that being one of the great problems, finding a place where you really wanted to work. Well, talking about wanting to work, where would you like to work if you had to work? And you do, and you want to work. What would you like to work at?
I'd like to be a carpenter.
A carpenter. What would you do?
A house.
Would you build it with your own hands, or would you like to plan it and tell other people how to do it?
Well, I would like to have some other people to help me build it.
Well, that would be fun too, yes, indeed. But that would be nice to be a carpenter. How big a house should you build?
Pretty big house. I like big houses. An upstairs house.
An upstairs house? That's the good houses with upstairs. Well, do you think you'd make enough money as a carpenter? Get along? Does it take much money to get along, do you think?
Well, you might not get as much as you want, but having a fun time and feeling what you're free might be the fun thing about it. You probably will make less money than you really want, but probably make a lot of money.
I see. Well, what do you think a poor person is? Tell me about being poor. What's a poor person?
Somebody who doesn't have many friends and can't get along with many people and just doesn't have many things to do.
I see.
Doesn't have any places to be or live or something like that.
I see. What do you think is a rich person?
A rich person can get along with friends and can get along with other people, probably find houses and have more places to be because you have more money. And you can go more places.
Where do you think travel would be nice? You'd like to travel. You've traveled a lot already, haven't you?
Yeah.
Where have you traveled to?
California on a train.
On a train. That was nice. I like trains.
They gave it to us.
You did? Do you remember that?
Not at all.
Not at all. But you do remember California. What was good about California?
Well, we got to. The thing that I had there was a little strawberry patch, and it was my cousin's, and so we could pick our own strawberry and take it in those boxes, and they were delicious.
Yeah.
You could even, there's this tree out on the front porch, and you could climb up and get on top of the roof and go any place on the roof that you wanted. But I never got to do that.
You weren't very old then, were you?
Probably about that.
That's fine. I see. Well, tell me, you talked about rich people and poor people. Tell me, what do you think is a good person?
Somebody who helps one another, and somebody who can be, real good to each other, and have a lot of friends, and hardly ever get mad at somebody.
I see. That sounds pretty good. That's a bad person.
Somebody who would go around and just get mad and don't want to be friends, wouldn't share, wouldn't be good to one another.
I see. Yes, that's a pretty bad person. Who wouldn't share. If you could tell all the little girls in the whole world one thing, what would you tell them?
To like one another.
To like one another. That would be the best thing to tell them. That would be. Now let's talk about you and some of the things that you do. I understand you can sing. I heard you sing. Do you have a song that you can sing? Yeah?
Actually,
What do you music?
yeah,
Well, I know you
I
though.
got two, but
Well, I know you do one of them. Or both of them. Whichever one you want to sing. Could you sing a little bit about Love is a Rose? Because I heard you sing that and it was you.
what they were in the first part.
Yeah, the part about Love is a Rose.
Love is a rose that you never buy pink, only clothes with all the back. And for the thorns that you don't take, lose your love when you say a word.
That was beautiful. That was really lovely. Well, what's your favorite thing in the whole world? What thing do you own? Now, it's got to be a thing, not a person, but a thing. What's your favorite thing in the whole world? Okay, maybe.
The tree, the world.
The world is your favorite thing. Well, I was thinking more about a possession, something that you own. Do you own something that you really love, or really fond of, as gives you memories or something?
It's a little flower bed.
Oh, Father.
Yeah, and it reminds me of when I was in the wedding, rose petals. for the bride, the groom.
Oh, you were the bride of it. I didn't know that. What kind of dress did you have? A green dress. And you got to keep your basket. I didn't even think of that. That is very, very good. You say you want to already? Do you think you'll ever like to get married?
Some of the children told us that I do want to get married, but there's something that keeps me from getting married.
Well, I don't mean right away. What keeps you from getting married?
I don't want to have a baby. I just don't want to have a baby.
Let's see, why don't you have a baby? I mean, of course, young people don't have babies, but when you get older, you wouldn't want to have one, huh?
I might want to have one, but I don't want to have one, that's all. Having one is the thing that might scare you when you're having it. Now, you want one, but when you're having it is what's going to scare you.
I see. I have 5. And I don't think I want any more myself. But it was nice, really.
My grandmother had 4.
Had 4. Small goodness. Well, when you get married, do you think you'll go ahead and work? Or do you keep on being a carpenter? Or do you think you might stay at home? Or how do you think it's like to be married?
I'd probably be kind of fun because you'd be with somebody and you could do things with them.
Yeah.
You'd be kind of happy because you stay with somebody who's almost like your own and you're their own.
Mm-hmm. That seems like a good reason to be married, all right. It sure does. If you weren't married, though, what could you do that you couldn't do if you were?
Well, you could probably go out and be in the wind, pick flowers, and sit down and be alone. It might be fun to be alone, too.
Yes?
You could do that without being married.
Uh-huh. Well, couldn't you be alone if you were married?
Yes, but at first, you think there's so many things you want to do.
I see. Well, do you have a boyfriend right now? You do.
Please,
How old is he?
Dad.
He's 9. Oh, he's pretty old.
If I want to marry you, you'll be older than me.
How do you think a man should be older than a woman?
Don't the kid be the same age? See, my daddy was first 30 and my mother became 30. They're both the same age, but they're both 31.
Oh, I see. But
My daddy will first be 30.
I see. He's a little bit older, but not a whole year. I see. I don't know how old they are.
About a month.
I see. When's your birthday? I know, because you had a birthday party, but I've forgotten exactly the date. April 3rd. That means what sign are you? Well, it's not important, really. Taurus? Yeah. Well, the diamond, I think, is your birthstone. Isn't it? That's your birthstone.
I know what my sign is.
That's it.
My sign is, it's
Aries. Aries. I see. Yeah, I remember that. Really do. What is the thing you like to do most of anything? I'm thinking of music and reading and watching television, talking to people.
I would like to read a lot. Because when you read,
by countries and doing all these other things, you can find your way around. But when you read, like a map, you can find your way. Much easier, and, I think it's fascinating.
No, I do too. It makes pictures in my mind.
Tony, again, some pictures are not right.
When you read, you see pictures, don't you? That's what reading's all about. Do you think you'd ever like to write?
Yeah.
What would you like to write?
Well, I wrote a poem today.
You did? Would you say that poem to us? Would you read it? What?
I can say it without even reading it.
Oh, that's it. You had a title?
Not exactly, but I can say it.
Okay.
It says, a dog can be warm, a cat can be blue. A puppy kitten can be any color, and so can you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Kitten is half of a dog and half of a kitten.
I see. What did you say that